How do you tackle mental block / anxiety / lack of confidence in skating? Tips on backspins. This is the secret behind spinning. Can you describe your coaching team? When did you upgrade from first skates / how did you know what skates to go for? Hello friends of the internet. So you guys had a lot of questions and today I am coming to you with some answers. I reached out to all of you guys on Instagram on my story to ask if you guys had any questions at all related to figure skating, volleyball, my career, life. Finally, we're going to sit down and just have a casual Q&A. Happy to do more of these in the future if you guys like them. I'll probably source more Q&As in the future on my Instagram stories, so feel free to follow me on Instagram, and then you can stay up to date on the next time I do another round of these. Without further ado, you guys have a lot of interesting questions for me, so I'm excited to jump in and answer them all. Alright, the first question I got. I started at 30 and am terrified of jumping. Tips for overcoming mental blocks. I feel you 100%. Being scared of jumping is literally so real and something that I struggle with personally as well. Being a whole grown-ass human being when you're a kid, don't psychologically understand what fear quite is yet, and also if you do fall, you fall like 1 feet from the ice. I actually had a conversation with a sports psychologist around this, and the advice that she has given me is that you need to reframe falling. We treat falling as a big, dark, scary monster that we do not want anything to do with, which is probably true. Falling is something that could actually be fun. When she told me that, I was like, are you insane? Falling is not gonna make you injured if you do it safely. Falling is not gonna be as bad as we picture it in our heads. 1, learn how to fall safely, and 2, actually practice falling. Even if you rotate like a double sow cow or an axle poorly, and you could technically save it by landing on 2 feet or popping, I actually purposely try to fall by bringing myself down to the ice very slowly. And I know this sounds really stupid, but it does actually work. The other thing I will say is learn how to build connection with the ice. Working on choreographic things where you actually have to be very low to the ice, so this includes lunges, knee slides, just touching the ice or being on your knees on the ice can help you feel more comfortable being closer to the ice, and that is already 1 step further. So let me know if that helps in the comments down below. Kind of want to see how I exactly do it. You can refer to my training vlog video, which I'll link in the description down below. Cost of figure skating testing over your career, like point A to point B. I actually only tested 3 tests. I tested 2 moves in a field test and then 1 free skate test, and I personally have not taken a test in a really long time, but what I do remember spending is I think 1 test was around like the $150 range. If you multiply by 3, I spent probably around $450 in my skating career on testing alone. Try to test only when you feel really comfortable with feeling like you're going to pass. Fortunately for all my tests, I did pass. If you don't pass, you have to take it again, and it's a whole nother like $150. Save your money, guys, especially if you're not planning to attend a competition when you have to test to a certain level. Third question, can you describe your coaching team? How often you work with each and how you choose them? I worked with different coaches at different points in my season to different variabilities and degrees. It's sometimes subject to their availability. In total, I would say the past season, I worked with 4 different coaches. One coach who is my primary coach oversees all of my training in totality, so doesn't really necessarily specifically focuses on one specific piece, but more so the overall picture. Consistently saw her about once a week for 25 minutes. The second coach I work with is actually a technical specialist. There are plenty of coaches out there that are technical specialists who study the IJS system. They actually have to serve as a technical caller in certain competitions and events. As I mentioned in my sectionals video and my nationals video, my event did move to IJS, and there are very particular set of technical rules that you need to abide by in order to get certain scores, certain levels on your spins. By understanding the system, you can better say, this is what I can do, this is what I can't do. Given this situation, how do I maximize the amount of points that I can get this season? I actually didn't work with him until a week before sectionals. Leading up until nationals, I've been taking 1 lesson from him every week for 25 minutes. The third coach I worked with is what I called my jump coach. So he pretty much just only does my jumps, learn my multi-rotational jumps from him, primarily because he does pole harness work, which means he can actually lift me up in the air. And quite frankly, it is quite hard these days as a full-grown adult to find someone who can pole harness someone of my weight. I actually did not take as frequently from him, twice a month situation, or maybe even less than that. that. But as I got closer to season, I was struggling with my LUTs, so I did have him help me. Ended up starting taking a lesson every week around February. The last person on my team is my choreographer, so you've probably seen some of her as well. How you work with a choreographer is different. My choreographer is actually quite busy, and she is also traveling all the time. It's actually a little bit hard to track her down from time to time. First, get my program in the beginning of the season. In a given week, I might spend 1 hour, 2 hours with her. For choreography, it's good to have longer sessions and break the creative flow of what you are both trying to create together. And then there also may be some gaps where there's multiple months where I don't have a single session with my choreographer, and she comes back closer to when my competitions are coming around to do certain touch-ups, and that would be more so like a once a week cadence. All right, next question. You should do an off-ice training sort of thing. Yes, I agree. So there are actually some existing off-ice training resources that I have already uploaded to my channel that I will link in the description down below. And also, if you follow me on Instagram, I have posted some off-ice training exercises, so feel free to check those out. All right, next question. How do you manage skating with your career? I'm currently struggling with it. Girl, I feel you. Spiritually, completely. This has been such a requested topic for me to cover. I have shared in the past that I work both a corporate job in the management consulting industry on top of figure skating competitively. I actually gone ahead and made a whole video dedicated to that with tips that are practical. Please check that out for a more extensive version. So one tip I do want to share here, what I find that's hard to balance is getting enough sleep. Sometimes I'm working very late. Skating typically for me is very early in the morning before work. What I realized that has helped me get to bed on time is planning to go to bed for at least 1 hour before when you actually think you're gonna go to bed. Oftentimes what happens, I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna get to bed at 10 p.m. I'll probably start stretching around 9 p.m. But in reality, all of these things pile up and 10 p.m. becomes 10:30 and 10:30 becomes 11. And then before you know it, you don't have enough sleep to perform well the next day in training. I would literally write on a sticky note and put it on the wall that says bedtime like 8 p.m. Like, I know that sounds like ridiculous. I'm probably not actually going to bed at 8 p.m. So I will be like, okay, at 7, I'll start stretching. Before I know it, it's probably already 9:30, 10 p.m. and I should be going to bed anyways. That's how I keep myself on track from a sleep standpoint to be able to balance both work and skating. Tips on backspins. You guys have no idea how long the backspin has haunted me. I used to be terrified of the backspin. Some practical tips for the backspin. One, focusing on learning a good entry edge. This is the secret behind spinning. 90% of the success of your spin actually relies on how good your entry is. If you don't have a good entry, especially when it comes to like the dreaded forward camel spin, you just cannot hold that position. The backspin has a particularly tricky sweet spot that's actually on the back outside edge, right before your toe pick, kind of on the outside part of that rocker. A lot of times people don't fully flip that 3 turn from an inside 3 to a back outside edge before they start spinning. So a lot of people try to start spinning already when they're still on that inside edge, and that's just gonna be impossible. And the second tip for the backspin is learning how to hold and control that sweet spot with like an H position. It is much easier to pull in on a backspin really tightly in like almost like a scratchman position because it's somehow less scary. Best backspinners I know can hold that position for ages before they pull in. If you can do that, that's a really good sign that you have a really good control of finding that sweet spot. Right, next question. How to find a coach that is good at teaching adults and not just young skaters? I think my biggest advice on that is sensing if someone actually has a passion for helping others and for coaching, and not just coaching for the money. I think after you've been skating at a rink for a long time, observing all the different coaches work with their students, you can often kind of get a little bit of a sense of what coaches are there to just make money and what coaches are there because they genuinely love skating and they want to help their students succeed. Second advice that I would honestly say is word of mouth. Easiest way to get really detailed information about how skating works, what coaches are good at your rink, is honestly making other friends at the rink. Detailed off-ice warm-up question mark, and how to feel less self-conscious as an adult beginner. Every day before I go on the ice, I always make sure I do an off-ice warm-up. That is to make sure you prevent any sort of injuries. I know it is hard to balance skating as an adult. You don't want to be showing up at the rink earlier than you already have to, but I will stress this, make sure you have enough time to warm up, because if you do not have enough time to warm up, you will get hurt and it will just create more cost cost to you financially to go through PT, get MRIs. Every day before skating, I'd at least do a 10-minute warm-up. Primarily what that comprises of is dynamic stretching. Before you start an activity like figure skating, you should not do static stretching, you should do dynamic stretching. Static would be things like holding a stretch for 45 seconds to a minute. My background being a former competitive volleyball player has really helped me learn how to warm my body up properly. I typically start with just some light cardio, do some high knees, I'll do some butt kickers, skip hops to get like the legs going, to get the body feeling just warm and jumping. Another great one is just like side to side shuffles where you kind of swing your arms too, especially helpful to warm up the arms for things like the axle. Grapevines are also another good one because it rotates your hips really fast and kind of warms up your agility, which is super important in skating, whether you're snapping into a jump, you're snapping into a spin, you're changing directions really quickly in your hips when doing a difficult turn. All of those things require your hips to be warmed up for like certain jerky moments. That's kind of like a weird way to explain it, but yeah, figure skating is quite jerky. I'll hold on to the wall and do leg kicks. So I'll swing my legs side to side this way and then front to back this way. And I'll do kind of lines of lunge twists where you basically go into a lunge, twist side to side. Tail end of that 10-minute warm up, I do some off ice rotational exercises. So I basically just pull into like a one rotation jump in H position, or I do some off ice axle, things like that, just to warm up my jumps. Ooh, this is a fun one. Any summer or spring vacation plans? The answer is no, I have not planned any sort of vacations quite yet. I was just so busy and focused on doing well during my competitive figure skating season this year. I'm not actually quite sure how much PTO I even had left. I was considering visiting Taiwan and Hong Kong in the summer. If you guys watched my pairs figure skating video, you will know that I did end up trying pairs with a partner this year just for fun. He was a friend that I met in New York. He ended up actually moving to Taiwan, so I might pay him a visit and maybe we'll try some pair stuff together and skate together again. That would be extremely fun. Would you compete at international adult competitions? And the answer is absolutely yes. If you guys aren't aware, International Skating Union actually does do internationally certified competitions for adults as well, so it's kind of like the world championships of adult skating. But hilariously enough, I'm actually too young for that competition. I am currently 25 and the lower age limit is 28 years of age. Once I turn 28, I will probably be there unless I am completely broken by then. Next question I have is actually volleyball specific. How do you train for volleyball? Do you have a specific routine? So I wouldn't say I necessarily train for volleyball anymore. In the off season, I do attend an advanced women's clinic here in New York. Clinics are kind of more similar to how I'm used to training. I was playing in school. There are coaches, there's people who run drills with you. Volleyball is very different than skating because it is a team sport. Even the practice drills will rely a lot more on your teammates. Next question, what are your next goals in figure skating slash volleyball? For skating, I'm really excited to start working on my axles again and my double sow cap, trying to do a back sit, which is going awfully horrendous. It's so much harder than the upright. I think some goals I have for volleyball is increasing my digging accuracy. So for context, for those who are not familiar with volleyball, I think most of you guys are skating friends here, but volleyball friends, hello, this is for you. I was formerly a libero, which is a defensive specialist, and which means my specialty is passing. So I usually take the first contact from the opposing team. What are your go-to stretches for flexibility? I'm about as flexible as a plank of wood. When I first started figure skating, I was also as flexible as about a plank of wood. When I was in volleyball, there wasn't as much of a stressor at all when it came to flexibility. So I never really consistently stretched, never grew up doing dance or ballet or anything like that. So my body was just not conditioned to stretch in certain ways. I love just a forward bend and with your arms clasped behind your back and you kind of just bend forward and stretch out your hamstring as well as your shoulders. Both really important muscle groups for skating. Another great one is like the classic hip flexor stretch where you're just kind of in a lunge position. Go on and on about this, so maybe I just need to make a separate video about this that you guys can actually follow along to and use to support your stretching. Next question, what do you find most helpful to balance your schedule slash juggle your commitments? Again, this is a big topic that I covered in my how to balance a corporate job and being an athlete video that will link in the description down below, and I have a specific tip in that video surrounding prioritization. So I would probably refer you to that video for a more detailed explanation. Next question I have, first question. How do you tackle mental block / anxiety / lack of confidence in skating? Skating isn't always pretty. A lot of the times, even if you just watch my vlogs, I do mention the downs just as much as the ups. Social media, even on YouTube, on Instagram, it's all the great stuff out there. But that doesn't mean that there aren't days that are so terrible. Yesterday, I was just in an all-time low. Haven't felt this crappy about my own skating in a really long time. I was working on double sows and axles, could not rotate anything that day to save my life. And the most frustrating thing was the prior week I was getting there, I was making progress, and this week it just felt like everything just reverted back to -5. I just felt such an overwhelming feeling of anxiety, lack of confidence, feeling like I didn't belong, like there were all these other skaters doing all these incredible things, and it honestly felt really terrible. Advice there. Number one, you have to be a little bit delulu in terms of your level of confidence, especially when it's game time. Before you go compete, you need to just think you're gonna win this competition. You're going to kill it. You're going to slay. Because if you don't think that way, you almost need to like gaslight yourself into thinking you're like world champion level. And I'm not even kidding. Being delusional a little bit actually kind of works and probably has some scientific merit to it. If you trick your brain to think that you're going to be able to do it, you have a much higher likelihood of being able to do it. Second thing is feeling a sense of belonging. Oftentimes, I still today feel imposter syndrome, and that was especially the case in yesterday's practice. Everyone around me was just so great at what they do, and I just sucked. That is absolutely the wrong thinking. You have to think to yourself, I deserve to be here just as much as everyone else. Even if we're at very, very different levels, that doesn't mean that you aren't necessarily trying as hard as these other people on the ice, and because of that, you deserve every right to be there with them. If anything, just think about how it's even probably a little bit more impressive that you're there with all of these people, because you have additional challenges that you have to overcome, whether it's starting later in life, your age, your background, and you're still there. That's something to be proud of. And lastly, sometimes you just need to take a day off. You just need to remove yourself from the situation and just take a breather to reground yourself. There are times that you have to push forward, and there's times that you just have to say, I need a break. Today, I was supposed to go training this morning, but yesterday was just like such an all-time low that I was like, I just need one day to mentally process everything that happened. This decision was made a little bit easier because I am now in the off season and things aren't as immediately pressing or urgent. I was still prepping and leading up to nationals. I don't think I would have made that decision. That would have been more of a call of like, hey, let's push forward. Let's put yesterday's bad practice aside. In my given situation, it just made complete sense for me to just take a day off. Sometimes taking a short break really can help you reset. Next question, are you single? Next question, I'm about to begin my graduate scheme in consulting this fall. Any tips for a newcomer? In your earlier years, it is highly important to develop your hard skills. A lot of clients and a lot of projects these days are really data-driven, data-oriented. That can mean anything from financial modeling, or it could be knowing how to use advanced data analytics tools like an Ultrix or data visualization tool like Tableau. You're much more likely to find a great project and get staffed if you do have those skills. If your company offers any sort of training around that area, or if you can do any sort of self-training before you go into the industry, that would be highly helpful. Next question, why did you decide to start making videos? This is a little bit of a walk down memory lane. I started my YouTube channel when I was on my last year in college at the University of Pennsylvania, and I graduated the glorious year of 2020. It was the peak of the pandemic. My graduation got canceled. Basically, my whole senior year was stripped. For my family, I lived with my grandma, so I was afraid to travel back from campus to home in the fear of getting her sick, so I ended up staying and quarantining by myself on my apartment on campus. That was an incredibly lonely experience. During this time, I just thought, oh, maybe there was something that I could do out there for people who are skaters, who are not being able to access the rink. Maybe I can do something positive. I decided, like, what if I make off-ice exercise routine? I feel like I was itching to go back to the rink. I was itching to do something physical that will still keep me be in shape for the sport that I love. That was my idea behind my very first YouTube video on this channel, which is this one right here. You should try it and let me know, but please don't make fun of me. I probably sound super awkward. College me was awkward, but you know, it was a helpful video. The reason why I continue to make videos is I found such a deep sense of fulfillment from connecting with all of you, reach corners of the world that I never thought I would be able to reach before, bringing more people into the sport of figure skating, bringing more people who work corporate jobs into pursuing their passions and pushing them to pursue their passions. That's what makes me truly love what I do and why I continue to do it. Another fun one, Los Angeles or New York? If you guys aren't familiar, I grew up in Southern California, but I've now been living in New York for probably about the last 4 years or so. I will answer this question from two perspectives, one from a skating perspective and one from just like a life perspective. From a skating perspective, California actually has better resources. None of my friends who don't skate actually believe me because they think, oh, skating must be a much bigger thing on the East Coast where it is actually colder. But my friends, you have underestimated the power of Asian mothers and Russian mothers in California. The training facilities and coaches are absolutely excellent. The prices are actually cheaper. I would say coaching is about the same as New York, but the ring time, the facility, just so much better than what we have here. From a general life standpoint, even though I do love both cities with all my heart, I do think I prefer New York more. New York feels a little bit more raw. New York is a city to me that feels like it has a soul to it. Yes, it might have rats. Yes, it might smell gross in the subway in the summer. My last 4 years in New York, I've grown so much as a person. I've been so exposed to people from all different backgrounds, from all ages. The diversity in New York, if you put yourself out there, is just incredible. People I met through playing volleyball, the skating, it's just such a good and vibrant energy that I can't describe it. I feel like I wouldn't be able to get that anywhere else, not even Los Angeles. The other thing I will say, I am such a big walking person and public transport person. I just realized how much more so you feel stuck in LA, and especially if you don't have a car. Like even if you have a car, you spend most of your time sitting in traffic, and when you're sitting in traffic driving by yourself, you're not really interacting with other human beings other than what, like getting road rage at someone else. When I'm in New York, I just feel much closer to people in general. That's what I find truly magical about New York. When did you upgrade from first skates / how did you know what skates to go for? That is a fantastic question. I actually did share this in my ultimate beginner's guide to figure skating video. I upgraded from my first skates about 6 months into my progress. I started off with this pair of Jackson Mystique that came with pre-attached blades. I'll link it in the description down below which one I'm talking about. I literally ordered these skates from Amazon. Like it was just like such a shot in the dark. Once I hit the 6-month mark, my coach was like, if you're gonna start learning how to jump, how to spin, you can't do it anymore in these boots. I mean, you could, but would it be good for you? Probably not. I moved to Jackson Premier, so ended up getting separate blades. Skates that come with the pre-attached blades, most likely pretty bad. They're great to start with as complete beginners, but you will have to move on from that pretty quickly. Your blade is pretty much how you're going to learn how to spin. I ended up getting like a very intermediate blade, Jackson Legacy blade, but that was when I made my first move into actual skates. So next question, Deb's still wondering where you like to shop for your practice outfits. 2 pairs of the same black Lululemon leggings that I've been wearing for 4 or 5 years now. Investment truly does pay off. For the top and for the jacket, it's a mix between Lululemon, Alo Yoga. My advice for both of these brands is buy stuff on Black Friday, buy stuff when they're on sale because they're pretty much never on sale anytime else. Also, they make these tearaway sweatpants that are super helpful and I bring to competition with me. They're ones where you can warm up in and put your skates on and then you can tear them apart so you can take off your sweats easily over your skates if needed. Thin outerwear or vest, Patagonia is actually a really great brand because they're very lightweight, they're very breathable, very thin, very easy to move in. Now that you won nationals for your event, do you think you'll test and compete at the next level up? This season, I'm really going to try to push myself to achieve that next level. Everyone in that next level is terrifyingly good. We're here to try to push our own boundaries, so I'm going to try my best to accomplish that goal. Last question, what's your favorite animal? And ironically, for the last like 2 years, I've been obsessed with polar bears. Maybe it's just like figure skating, polar bears, cold, ice. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end and for submitting all of your questions on my Q&A request on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram for more Q&A submissions in the future. Hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Like more videos like this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below what you would like to see from me next, because your idea may just be the next video that I make. So much fun to sit down with you guys all and just have a little chat today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Honey, sickly sweet, keeps me coming, got me weak. You could kill me, I'd still be, darling, you're